the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to episode 203 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. Today, we're going to be talking with Herman Duarte of Simple Legal Consulting and Plan B Costa Rica. I love that Plan B. He's a lawyer, but also focuses on helping people have that Plan B when it comes to residency and also living in Costa Rica. So we're going to be talking to him about his advice, his experiences, and just giving his viewpoint on kind of what's happening here in Costa Rica. Remember, guys, if anyone wants to talk with us about doing anything in Costa Rica, it could be, again, relocating, investing, project management. We have quite a wide depth of skills and also knowledge. All of our contact details are in the description down below. We're happy to have a free 30-minute consultation with anyone. You can just click the link below, find a time that suits, and have a chat with us. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, guys. If you are, please give thumbs up. We're starting a bunch of projects here in Costa Rica, some very interesting ones. I think we're about to do fractional ownership in Hernan, a luxury 6-bedroom villa. So that should be very, very interesting. So if you're interested in that, you can again contact us in the description down below or email us info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. We should have that coming out in about the next 30 days. But let's get straight into the podcast. Good morning, Herman. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very, very good. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us here on the podcast and share some information.
No, thank you. It's the other way around, man. Thank you for hosting me. I've been quite of a listener of your podcast for some years now, and now I felt I was ready to approach.
Good for you. Good for you, man. Good for you. Well, I think we've got an interesting topic here today, but as I always like to get started, I mean, markets have had a good start to 2024. I think real estate worldwide is starting to slow down though now. Interest rates are certainly having an impact there. I mean, what are you seeing happening here just in general in Costa Rica, Herman?
Look, I was just looking yesterday at the statistics of Costa Rica, of the enterings and the exits of people, and we can see a trend of how we went from the year 2022 to 2024 to the maximum amount of visitors. For example, last December we received over 1 million people, and this January we received 1.1 million people compared to January 2022 that was 650,000. Yeah. This includes also people exiting the country. Sure. This is just movements in the borders, but it also shows you a little bit about how much movement we're having in Costa Rica, and that's a reason why we see this trend on real estate. But certainly now we are in low season, it's rainy season, and you can feel it as well on the amount of leads, amount of people asking for immigration advice, amount of people asking for doing due diligence, and so on and so on. But what I'm seeing is at least the people who approach me, and again, I'm a small satellite. There are bigger satellites out in the market, but I get interesting people in my satellite, and the people that approach me are people who are looking to acquire land to create either eco villages or to create communities. Like, people are going back to the basics. Like, they want to have sustainable living, they want to farm, they want to plant their own things, and create some level of community, like some sort of condo where people are very active. I wouldn't say co-living because they want to have their own independent houses, but they are certainly done with this idea of not talking to your neighbor. Yeah. And I also see other trend of people who are here for the wellness. Like, they are here looking for a nice piece of land where you can connect with nature, and that they can develop some project around wellness in the broadest sense, from establishing operations for a retreat center, and we go there in a second, or something more oriented to yoga and reconnecting, and in that line.
You and I had chatted before about Plan B, and I always say I think there's a lot of people looking at Costa Rica as a potential Plan B, depending, just because of economic, political instability. It's very interesting. I mean, are you seeing that happen here in Costa Rica from your side? And why do you think potentially it's a good location to have a Plan B?
Look, I actually have a website called Plan B cr.com.
Yep.
And this came through me after talking with so many, mostly Americans, that they just chatting just like we are. And they just simply told me one after another, I need a plan B.
Yep.
Like for some people, their world is crumbling apart. For some people, it's like they feel like they're living in chaos. And for some reason, Costa Rica provide, to some extent and to a larger audience, this level of stability that people are looking for. Costa Rica, for example, people with families can still have top level education for the kids. They can still have international schools for the kids. Whatever diet restriction you have, you will find it here, from kosher to organic to the most sophisticated paladars in the world can live here. Or even if you want just a simple diet of rice and beans, you can still have it. Like I feel that that Costa Rica creates some sort of a cosmopolitan jungle, because it's still the nature, but attracts for some reason really interesting people. And you see it from the corporate side. If you go check out the great effort that Cinde and Procover has done in attracting, the largest companies in the world.
Yeah.
And again, we have to also take a look at our neighbors, what they're doing. Just this week, Argentina passed a proposal of law to attract investments of over $200 million. And these are things that we have to check, as well. But at the same time, Costa Rica keeps attracting people. There is some level of political tensions nowadays in Costa Rica. It's not like it was before, but still, it still gives the stability that other countries do not have. And I think part of this is because the abolition of the army. We don't have this fear of having a coup or having a dictator. This notion of having a dictator in Costa Rica is simply inconceivable.
Yeah.
And something that gives a lot of peace to people, and in relation as well with the different protected areas that we have, regardless of the environmental crisis or events that have happened this year, like from the fire that burned down a big part of the Prusia forest in Cartago, some a little bit of wildfires in Guanacaste as well, alongside these recent events in May about some people with irregular migration categories deforesting in some natural areas. Regardless of that, Costa Rica is still, a place with a big green setting that keeps attracting people from all over the world. And for some reason, Costa Rica becomes an option, a plan B in people's mind. Where can I go where I can have schools and I can still have one feet in modernity while reconnecting with nature? Well, Costa Rica is a place where you feel safe still. Even though there has been some diminishment in the level of security we have seen it. We're not going to lie to the audience that Costa Rica is Disneyland, because it's not. But still one of the greatest countries to live in. We don't have a war with anyone and so on. But there are things to be improved. And the idea would be that people who move here as an immigrant is that they want to get involved with the community. They want to, create a positive impact towards the acceptance of themselves. Because we've been seeing now there's some movements as well as anti-foreign that needs to be addressed, because in addressing a positive way, how can you integrate people so they don't feel excluded?
Yeah.
Otherwise, that small fire can turn into big flames.
Definitely. Herman, I'm having difficulty on your microphone. Every time you kind of turn your head, I don't know what speakers you're using, or...
I'm using these headphones. Let me disconnect.
Okay. It just kind of sounds like a little bit muffled after a while. Like when you turn your head, it muffles.
How about now? Would it be better?
It's better. Yeah, I think it's better. So...
Do you want to repeat any part?
No, I think we're good. I'll just stop it there and we'll just splice it back together. So let me pause and let's just talk about this anti-foreign. I have a question on that. So I'm just going to pause here just so we can reconnect it, okay? Herman, I think that's an interesting point that you've mentioned there against this anti-foreigner movement. It's something that's, somebody had mentioned gentrification the other day to me and said, like, how do you do this? How the rich, what's your opinion on people when they move in and kind of, you know, it gets too expensive for locals, etc. And I'm like, look, I think people need to integrate and be part of the community. I don't think it can just be, hey, I'm going to move in and then just push everyone out. I mean, we were there with the Spanish, you know, like it's, you have to feel part of that community. And there are other areas that have done that very well and areas that aren't. But like, I think that anybody moving in and that's worried about gentrification needs to understand of like, become part of the community and rise the tide of it.
Well, that it's the elephant in the room. It's one of the elephants in the room. People are protesting in some areas. If you see Nosara, there has been even some people, you know, putting some signs in the agents. You see it in the real estate agents, you know, signs. If you see online, there's a TikTok account of saying no to the gentrification, and they just post things and open selection makes you wonder how people see things from another perspective. But it also gives me the opportunity to think like, where do I see clients of mine that they have done like a good job about it? For example, I have a client that they have moved to an area many years ago. And what they did is that they set up even a home, like a school, to help people in their community. They gave job to people. And at the end of the day, you can summarize it in a way that if you have the blessing of having more abundance in your life in the field of economy, you should try to share it in a way that you don't look like a selfish person. Let me stop for a second. I need to close one door.
Okay.
Do you hear that sound, that background sound? No, okay, 1 second.
Rich, I just talked to Casa Cafe, and unfortunately, they cannot charge us through the credit card or even a Simpe, because I tried asking if we could just send them a Simpe. So you have to go there in person.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
No worries.
Okay, can we repeat that part, because I was a little bit distracted because there is a construction next door.
Yeah, sure. So we'll cut that part out.
Yeah.
It's funny that you talk about, you know, this anti-foreigner movement, this gentrification. I had a conversation with someone the other day about it, and they were like, how do you do this properly, Richard? And I was like, well, I think you need to be part of the community. You know, there are multiple people that I know that have helped the tide rise in certain communities, and you know, from schooling to jobs, etc. So I think that there is a smart way to do it. I think what you don't want, again, is individuals just to come here and basically build huge homes and kind of not add any benefit or help the community out, because then I think it does raise that anti, you know, foreign investment sentiment.
I agree with you, Richard. If a foreigner comes here to live in this country, they should see a way that they could integrate in a positive way by either providing jobs, by helping community, sharing about who they are, teaching people that they are not some sort of robot, unreachable person, but they're like just a human trying to put a fit in the place where they feel better, you know, like they feel that they belong. And in order to belong, you need to integrate with the community. For example, I have a client of mine in the area of Pérez Celedón that they run a retreat, and they also run a very interesting community program that is a school. So they have a school that allows people to bring their children, that they're you know, like funding the whole school, and they're part of the community. Of course, not everyone can build a school, but this is just an example of how you can integrate in a way that you don't create this negative image, because at the end of the day, the community are going to be rejecting, like they're going to react and reject. It's like, like your body, you know, like we are an ecosystem. Like if your body gets a food poisoning, reacts, you know, like, and in a way, if you see some online accounts that are, you know, like promoting this movement that needs to be addressed at some point, needs to be talked in a way to see like how can we lower the levels of hate, because this could turn into violence at some point.
Well, I mean, this is not a very violent country though, Herman, as you're aware.
That's
I mean,
true.
you know, which I think the benefit that we have, I mean, we have neighbors to the north and south, which are very violent when it comes to demonstrations, you know. Costa Rica is very passive, but I look, there's always going to be people that don't like it. Not, I see it as opportunity. There's always opportunity now. I mean, if you're able to take, if you're local and, and like you're looking for opportunity now, the floodgates have opened of opportunity because there are so many ancillary services around that. But I do also think that anyone investing in here needs to understand of like, I'm going to become part of a community, because if that's not part of your investment, the country will reject you pretty quickly. But I've always said, Herman, everything in this country is so difficult anyway, it usually filters out the assholes, as I say, because it's just too difficult. Like, everything is so organic and takes so long. And like, it's only really the good ideas and good people that typically stay here over a long period of time. And I mean, as you've mentioned there of like $200 million like investment in Argentina, like Costa Rica's not like that. It's not on steroids. It's not trying to like pump stuff up. It's just kind of stuff organically and slowly happens here, because even the government, doesn't have a majority. So passing any laws or getting stuff done takes a little bit longer. So when stuff takes longer, I think that my feeling is only the good stuff starts to bubble to the surface.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And that in Costa Rica, you most of the time need an expert to help you navigate different things. I mean, I see that you help people with their construction and the project management things. Like it's almost impossible to do it on your own. And you're right about that, of integrating with the community. And just come here if you're moving or considering moving to Costa Rica. Come here with the idea of like what also you can contribute. In a way that's going to be more rewarding for you as you enter into a new stage of your life in this beautiful country, which I believe is a blessed land. I moved here 13 years ago, and I always tell people who want to move here in Costa Rica, take advantage of it, protect it, because everything grows here. Everything. Yep. You set up a business, it will grow. Yep. It's really a blessed place, and as you say, it's quite a blessing to live in a country that has a tradition of peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that's why it's a plan B here of like, nobody really cares about politics here. We kind of giggle at the elections happening around the world at the moment. Because again, it's always a crapshoot here whenever we have elections of who's going to win, because, the first, the most popular candidates here typically haven't won over the last coming years. But let's just go back to kind of your more residency here, moving here, and citizenship. I mean, what are the there are some countries that will have golden passports, if that makes sense, where you invest over a certain amount. I don't believe Costa Rica has that golden, if you invest a certain amount, you get a passport, if I'm correct, right?
The people like to call it like the famous golden visa. Yep. Costa Rica has a program that we can say is a golden visa. So I would say that's the classification of what I call capital immigrants, so people with capital. And for instance, you have a very cool program called the Digital Nomad Visa, which only requires you for an individual to have received in the past 12 months in their bank accounts, $36,000 in an average, yep. Or 48,000 if it's a family. That's like the quickest way to obtain a 1-year stay, a visa that allows you to be tax-free. You don't have to pay any income tax, and allows you to open bank accounts. Your driver license is valid for the period that you're here. Then you have another program that if you invest, like you purchase either vehicles, which could be boats, which could be cars, it could be planes, helicopters, or if you invest in land or in shares of a company, or you open an account with a hedge fund here in Costa Rica, or you even invest in bonds that are connected with forestry causes. Yep. That amount that you invested, $150,000, which is significant less than the ones that they request in Spain, or the ones that they request even in Panama, that they ask for $500,000. You can get a residency for a 2-year period. Of course, they request other things for residencies compared to digital nomad visas. I'm going to go there in a second. But you also have 2 more categories for capital immigrants. For instance, you have the rentista one, which there are 2 ways to do it. One way is that you will bring, proof of evidence from your country of origin with apostille and get, a bunch of paperwork to show that you have a consistent cash flow for $2,500 per month for the future. The digital nomad visa is like take a look at the past. This one is for the future. Or the easy way, which is open a bank account here in Costa Rica, deposit $60,000, which would be the equivalent of $2,500 for 2 years, which is the period of the residency. And people ask, well, wow, so if I go with this rentista residency, can I use those $60,000? Absolutely. You can use them right away after you do the application at the immigration agency. But once you want to renew it, because it's for 2 years, you will have to deposit amount that you have spent. Then you have the pensionado residency as well, which requires you to prove that you have a perpetual pension for $1,000. This one sometimes can be a little bit tricky to apply because the immigration authorities might request that it says expressly that it's for life. And some of these pension funds will not say that it's for life because they have some sort of clause that doesn't allow them to put that. But those are 4 categories that would fit in a way into this golden visa category. One thing that is important to say.
Go ahead, sorry, Herman.
One thing that is important to say here that we don't have in Costa Rica, and I was just having a call with someone from Emirates, from the area of the Middle East, that he wanted to buy a Costa Rican passport. And you don't have this possibility. You cannot buy passports in Costa Rica. This is a country where you have to, do things in the right way. There's only one way. There is no way that you can purchase passports.
How long do you need to have residency in order to apply for citizenship? Is it 5 years or 7 years? Do you know?
Depends. There are three different timelines. If you get married with a Costa Rican, whether it's a man or a woman, doesn't matter if it's same-sex marriage, because Costa Rica, everyone's equal. It's 2 years, as long as you have been living within Costa Rica. And the process is faster, and you don't have to provide a lot of other requirements that you do for naturalization.
I got that.
Good. And you don't have to do an exam, like social studies exam.
I didn't have to do that, so that was kind of nice.
I did it, and as a parenthesis, it's very interesting. There is a full parallel economy for this exam, teachers, courses, books to prepare you for the social studies exams that are going to ask you, I don't know, like what was the favorite food of Juanito Mora or who was Juan Santa Maria? It's very rough social studies thing. And then you have 5 years if you hold residency and have lived in the country for 5 years, because there's people that don't live here all the time. I have Canadian clients that they just live here in the summer and then they escape from their winter, they come here for the summer, but they ask you, and they will count the amount of days that you have lived in the country, and it's 5 years for people that have the Central American nationality, or 7 years for other nationalities. I think the Spaniards also is 5 years, but I have to double check on that. But for Americans, it would be 7 years if they don't get married, like they don't have their Costa Rican marriage.
Well, I mean,
and exams included, unless they're 65. If you're 65, you don't have to do exams of Spanish, and you don't have to do exams of social studies. One thing I miss, Richard, is saying some of the benefits of the investor, rentista, and pensioner applications, which allows people to, once they get the approval, you can import 2 vehicles and you can import the household goods.
You can do that under the pensionado, rentista?
Pensionado, rentista, and investor. Those 3 you can do.
I never knew that. I never knew you could do it under those other 2.
Yeah, it allows it. It's on the law. I believe it's law 9996 that creates incentives to attract them for a 5-year period.
Wow.
You can do that. You can do that.
Wow. Well, let's change gears a little bit about just kind of what do you think are the areas of Costa Rica that you'll think will see the most growth in the coming years, and why? You know, I mean, we've seen it in Nosara, we've seen it in Santa Teresa. I mean, what are some of the other areas that you think are going to be growing over the next coming years, and why?
You know, I think the area of Puerto Jimenez is very interesting because of the new port that is being built. And for a behavioral, behavioral economics aspect, which is the real estate agents, which move the country. Real estate agents in that area get 10% commission.
Wow.
Compared to other areas of the commission. So they will be pulling over people in that direction. And also for the fact that, if you imagine Costa Rica as a buffet, and you want to buy a piece of land in Nosara or in Tamarindo, you have to pay the extra to get into the VIP line in a way, because the deals have been already taken. There are few deals left. But the area of the south of the Pacific, I think it brings some really interesting areas. Not so far away from the capital, Uvita and Dominical I think they're going through their plateau, they're going through their momentum. Where people are investing a lot, and still you can still buy things that would not cost one kidney. Still affordable in a way. Ojochala, I've been hearing a lot as well. And of course, the classic Tamarindo area or Flamingo area districts that are like 40 minutes away from Tamarindo and so on, is still popular for people. Like Villarreal and Huacas area, the people still, they say, okay, it's not beachfront, but I can have access to 3-4 different beaches. Like, why not, right? And I also have Papagayo not so far, and still, I think Guanacaste still has the crown, and it's going to be hard to take it away. Although I see a big gold medal in the area of Santa Teresa, right? That has become such a interesting place. Some people call it the mini Tulum, right? And you go there and you see like people who seem that they have been pulled out either from a model agency or from Burning Man. I don't know. Alongside the big gastronomic scene that you have there, like one of my favorite restaurants was there. I'm so sad that this Belgian couple had to leave Costa Rica, but it was Angelina. If ever anyone went there, it was so freaking good.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, look, the podcast before this we did was on Santa Teresa, and I think it's starting to slow down a little bit. I've always said that I think Santa Teresa is a little bit fashionable. As Tulum is starting to calm down a little bit, I think Santa Teresa will start, but there'll always be these fashionable destinations. And I think, I wonder when Santa Teresa is going to fall out of fashion.
I don't think that's going to happen. Costa Rica is never going to fall out of fashion, because for this thing, and this connects me why people move here, or why I like Costa Rica. And I think Costa Rica allows you to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with your essence. It allows you to go back to the basics, like go to a river, jump into a waterfall, feel the electrons enter your body, feel the aspect that is called grounding. And meet energy healers, go do a breathwork session, do a deep meditation state, get a hypnosis session, like practice a sport, do a hiking, connect with plant medicine as well.
We have less distractions. I mean, like there's a lot of distraction in other parts of the world, whether that's the news, when you're driving, everything like that. Like our distraction here is natural distraction, if that makes sense. I'm not hearing constant noise coming from multiple devices talking about politics, like bad stuff happening in the world. Like, okay, if you want to listen to it, you can do, but what I'm hearing is like the jigwiddo outside that's like singing and that kind of stuff. So it's more of a natural distraction around me rather than like a man-made distraction.
That's true. And I agree totally with you. And people in a way come here to Costa Rica to live a simple life.
That's it.
While losing their essentials.
I have no greater satisfaction than the other day, my guanabana tree flowered. I've been waiting like 4 years for that thing to flower. I had to pegarlo con a machete. Like I had to hit it with the machete at the bottom in order to start flowering and give me fruit, which typically happens here. But I mean, I get no greater satisfaction than taking an avocado off my tree or the guanabana tree flowering, of like just that, that essence of having grown something.
The essence, this reminds me, there is a commercial that the Costa Rica, people can Google this, Google Essential Costa Rica.
Yep.
And it's the country branding. And this first advertisement that they made is simply fantastic. And they talk about all of this, like Costa Rica, like their support for diversity, their support for nature, for business development, like for peace. And having, like the options of going to a farmer's market, buy organic price, like buy organic food at a price that is somewhat reasonable. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more pricier than other places, but
or grow it yourself.
Grow
it yourself.
True. Buy a piece of land, grow it yourself, and buy some air conditioner, right? As well. Don't forget.
Definitely. I mean, what services do you think are still missing here in Costa Rica, Herman? Like, I always love to ask this question just because a lot of people looking to come down, or people that are existing, that live here in Costa Rica, that are looking to start some form of business or do something. I mean, what do you think is still missing?
This is a very interesting question, and I always think about it, but what is missing is going to be determined by what is being demanded. So depending who arrives here, we're going to see different requests, right? We know that there's going to be an inflow of people from the Middle East coming over because of these these agreements that have been happening this year with the current government, and these investments of these luxury hotels that are going to be opening. So we're going to see, this is going to be a new crowd of people who are going to be coming over, and we're going to see that they're going to be needing some luxury services. So luxury concierge services like they have in Tulum is something that is still developing here. I have a friend that has a company that works in that area, in Cancun, for example, in Tulum. And this is something that's still pending to be seen here. But what I can tell you that is missing from things here that I can tell you is Costa Rica, from a governmental point of view, should not miss the opportunity to address what is happening here and make sure that Costa Rica is the #1 wellness destination of the world. Because people come here to heal. People here come for retreats, for yoga, for learning, for reconnecting with their soul. There are many offerings here that are doing this. And the government of Costa Rica could see this and promote some laws that regulates all of these aspects from a positive perspective, from not judgment, but from understanding. Costa Rica is already a hub for this. But we have competition with Jamaica, we have competition with Peru, we have competition with Colombia, but we have a better reputation than all of these countries through the peaceful and biodiverse perspective that people associate Costa Rica. People don't associate Costa Rica with war. People associate Costa Rica with fun, with zipline, with family, with vacation. And this should be something that we cannot, forget. There's also the need of improvement in the immigration aspects. In Dubai, you can get a residency status in 1 week. You cannot do it in Costa Rica. Sometimes, for some people, I have clients that in 1 month we have gotten results, but I also have clients that it has been over a year. It's disappointing, because Costa Rica could, create a mechanism that gives faster answers to foreigners so they can take advantage of what they promise. For instance, if you want to import the 2 vehicles, you need to have the approval, right? Or sometimes some foreigners have some problems in opening bank accounts because they don't have the DMX ID card. Fortunately, there are very good banks. For example, I have a very good relationship with banks that have helped some clients to open bank accounts. So, but not everyone, has that possibility. But what is missing, I would say, more than what is missing is what we shouldn't miss is the opportunity
Sure, I
of
agree.
becoming the #1 wellness spot in the world.
Yeah, look, I sat on the ICT's marketing board for many years, and this was maybe 12 years ago, and they were focusing on wellness. So I know from a tourism point of view, it's being hammered. It's just that, tourism still doesn't appear to be as important as it should be to the government, and I don't think ever has done here. There have been other governments that have paid more attention, and I think the current government does kind of pay a little bit, but it's looking at it more from an investment point of view rather than the brand of the country. It's more of like, let's get more investment into the country rather than figuring out of like, what should that investment be? How does it align with, the DNA of Costa Rica that has made it great to today?
But it's connected, like investment is, you're right about that.
100%.
But investment in tourism is connected because just think about a company like there are many global companies that work in the area of wellness and they want to have, like retreat centers in Costa Rica. But there might be certain like gray areas in the law that they feel like, maybe I cannot go there. But if they have like clear regulations
Sure, I agree.
plant medicine, for example,
Yep.
they would simply say, let's do 3 centers in all Costa Rica right away. Let's invest $10 million, invest $25 million.
But I think, Herman, the grayness is what makes Costa Rica great, because again, it might keep out the big guys, but allows the small organic boutique style, which has made Costa Rica, so special to today, because there was never a road plan, dude, like 40 years ago of what Costa Rica is going to look like in 40 years. I mean, it's really been locals and foreign investors, but smaller investors coming in and organically and boutiquely developing this country, if that makes sense. It's only recently we've started to see the big guys start to come to play because they go, wow, this is beautiful. I think we just need to make sure is they don't ruin it for us.
You're right.
You're
right. And the system has a way to protect itself, through limitations of, water permits or limitation for the construction permits that we have been seeing, right, in different areas. But you're right about that it has been an organic growth. Fortunately, Costa Rica has so many national parks that you cannot just go and cut everything off, because we have to understand that that's the reason why it has been successful is the protection of the nature.
Yeah,
and
I
this
agree.
cannot change,
It's its greatest asset. It's people and it's nature and its natural surroundings, so.
Absolutely. The Costa Rican people are absolutely welcoming, warm, kind, very sweet people, humble, and very smart, super smart,
Very.
and extremely capable in giving consistent results.
I agree. Well, Herman, my last question for you, as I've kept you long enough. If you inherited $500,000 and you had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you invest it in and why?
Well, I would definitely invest it in several things. I cannot do it in more education, right? Or can I?
You could do it. I think it's a business or real estate here in Costa Rica. What would you do with the investment?
I think I would get another flat here in San Jose that I could use for rent, because people, we have a flux of 3 million people. I think we're going to be expecting 3 million this year. And a lot of them stop over in San Jose.
Yep.
So that's definitely a safe spot to rent. And I would just buy some land in the Uvita Dominical area and hold it for some years. So it gets appraised.
Good answers. I was actually looking at San Jose numbers the other day because I was doing an analysis on buying a condo by the airport because I couldn't believe the numbers. It turned out to be like a 7-8% return, which is not terrible. Plus, I wasn't considering asset appreciation, just not something I want to be running at the moment, if that makes sense. But I definitely think that the numbers are there. But Herman, this has been great having you on the podcast. I'm going to put all of your contact details in the description down below for anyone that wants to reach out to you, and especially about talking about a plan B, but really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bexon, for everything. And if anyone wants to have a talk about Costa Rica, I always have 30 minutes for a free call, like you never know what's going to happen.
Very true. Have a great day, buddy.
Same.
Catch you later. Bye. Hope you enjoyed that podcast there with Herman, guys. Definitely a different viewpoint, and that's the great thing about getting the eclectic mix of people that we get here on the podcast. So, we went all over the map there, from investing to residency to why Costa Rica is so passive, and just kind of services that are still missing here in Costa Rica. But it's just interesting. I mean, even I learned some things there. I didn't realize that if you married a Costa Rican within 2 years, I waited like 18 years for mine. So maybe I should have done it a little bit earlier. But anyway, remember, guys, if you want to get in contact with us, you can. info@investingcostarica.com. If there are any topics that you'd like us to cover on the podcast, just email us and we'll see if we can get a specialist on there. But hope you're enjoying the podcast, guys. Please pass the pod, share it, and appreciate all of your support and everyone listening in. Until the next podcast, guys, we'll catch you later. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.